All right, hello and welcome back to another Adobe Illustrator lesson. Today, as you can see, we're going to be talking about the eraser, the knife, and the scissors tool. These are three tools that we use to modify graphics that all do very similar functions, but they approach the function differently. So I'm going to go through the instructions for each of the first exercises just to kind of give you an example of what they do, and then you're going to practice on your own after that. The last thing you're going to do for this particular activity is just explain the difference between the eraser, the knife, and the scissors tool to demonstrate that you understand what situation you need to use these different tools. Let's go ahead and get started. The eraser tool, which we're going to start with first, has a keyboard shortcut of Shift E. Please make sure that you're aware that it is Shift E and not E, as E is free transform. So we're going to be doing Shift E. Like with a lot of the tools we've learned, if you double click on the eraser tool, you will get the options panel where you can make some adjustments to the roundness, whether it's kind of a thinner brush, whether it's a larger or smaller brush, and you can adjust the angle of that particular brush. I'm going to reset it back to the default, and that way I can just kind of use the basic version. With the eraser, what is interesting about it is you don't actually have to have anything selected to use the eraser tool. You can just use it the way it comes. Now, it will only affect objects that are unlocked. In our layers panel, you'll see that I have two layers, and this one, which includes the locked stuff, even though I'm trying to erase it, it does not stay. It will only stay on the object here that is actually erasable. Once you've erased something, you'll see it's put this kind of thick white border in between it. And if I move back to my selection tool, I can now select these shapes independently. And if we look in my layers panel, you'll see that they're treated separately. They're not grouped. They're not something where I have to double click to go into isolation mode. They're just independent closed paths that I can manipulate. Okay. It's very usable. I want you to start also thinking about, as we're going through this lesson, how can you use this to enhance your designs moving forward? The next tool is the knife tool. The knife tool allows us to take closed objects, not paths, not open paths. It has to be a closed path. And it allows us to cut open, splice open, knife open, if you will, objects into separate pieces. Now, the difference between these and the eraser tool, because you're like, well, the eraser tool does that too, is the eraser tool leaves a gap. The knife tool, excuse me, I do have to select my object first with this tool. The knife tool, you do not have to have a gap. So if you wanted to cut up your shapes where they're still connected, they look whole until you decide to pull them apart or you decide to recolor them, the knife tool is what you want to use. The last tool we're going to master today is the scissors tool. This is a really neat one in my opinion, but it's good on, again, closed paths, but it only works on the strokes. For this, I'll tell you this, and I didn't say this emphatically. For this one, the knife tool does not work on the paths like you would think. It doesn't splice them necessarily. What it does is it kind of creates two separate closed paths. It doesn't open up the path. So if you're wanting to open up a path that is closed, we want to use the scissors tool. Keyboard shortcut for this is C. I'm always a big believer if a tool has a shortcut, it's a much more usable tool. It's something you should think through more often or use more often. So this one, the scissors, does have a keyboard shortcut of the letter C. Now for this one, again, you do have to have your object selected in order to manipulate whatever it is, and then you have to grab whatever the anchor point is that you're wanting to open up. So this is a closed path, as you can see. I'm gonna go in here, and you can see it's just one anchor point. There is not multiple anchor points because I want you to definitely see that before I go and I click on this anchor point. Now if I go to my direct select, you'll see that I do have two separate anchors that now that closed path has become an open path. That can be very, very convenient. All right, I did want you to see that you can use the scissors tool on an object that is filled. So I've got this one for you. We're going to activate our scissors tool. Again, shortcut is C on our keyboard. And I'm, again, just going to click on one anchor point. Once you've done that one, you're going to see there's now two, but what it does is because it is a solid fill, it still looks like it's filled. But if I were to put a stroke on this, which I'll do real quick just to show you, you can see that there is no finishing between these two. This is one of those nice things. If you do want to finish, you just reactivate your pen tool and then you can just connect those as you wish. Go ahead and finish all of the activities in this one. Make sure you answer the questions and then turn in your worksheet. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.